Hey everyone, today we're ranking the killer themes that you hear in the main menu of the game. There's over 40 of these now, with many cosmetics even having them. A number of killers don't have their own theme, and instead share a default theme, which is gonna be the last place here. This includes Trapper, Wraith, Freddy, Bubba, and Pig. This is a solid theme still, and is mainly only the lowest placement, due to it being universal between the 5, and so not so unique. Still, it gives off an imposing aura, and is definitely a sort of iconic sound at this point for DBD. Maya's is next, and has a very small adjustment to the bass theme, with a few of the Halloween notes at the start. It's nice, it's iconic, and I want to put it higher, but it's also very basic and still primarily the bass theme, therefore it's just above the others very slightly. Night has an odd soundtrack, which almost sounds a bit futuristic, which is strange. I do think the track sounds okay, but it gets very repetitive, and to be honest, it just doesn't fit Night that well, I don't think. There's elements that work, and when the drum taps come in, it works well, but for the most part, it just doesn't fit him, I don't think. Dredge has a sort of muffled and distorted sound to its track. I kind of like this, but it also doesn't expand on it much, which would be nice considering it's this abomination of a creature. It mostly just follows the same pattern with a similar rise later on. It fits well, but it's very basic. Plague's theme, to be honest, is fairly dull, I think, having only a slight variation on the bass theme. I do like some of the elements, like the shaking and the longer breath sounds that you can hear in parts, but I'm not sure, it just feels a bit too similar to the bass theme, without key distinguishing elements for Plague. Singularity has a track quite similar to that of the bass theme, with just a slight reverb kind of sound, and the track having a few more layers. I'm not the biggest fan, to be honest, especially with this being a futuristic chapter. I do like the metallic sounds though, and the constant beats that give it a good pace. Sadako's track has a nice difference in theme, but I don't think it works the best for her. There's a slight tension, but it feels a bit clunky almost. I do, however, like some of the sounds that come in, which are a bit more distorted and flickery. Skull Merchant sounds fairly futuristic and almost chaotic in parts, where the drums come in and clash with the main track. Everything is very jumbled, which sort of works for her overall design, to be honest. It does feel a bit all over the place though, although I do appreciate some of the elements. Hag's theme has some drums and this consistent droning sort of sound coming through. I personally don't think it fits her too well, although I do like some of the feeling I get from it. I tend to get the feeling of emptiness whenever the longer notes dip out. It's interesting, but I think a little too loud, honestly, for Hag. The Greek Legends theme is honestly just very odd. It's not the sort of thing I would picture being with this set, having this fast guitar sound. For something that focuses on legend and ancient things, I sort of feel it should be a slower track, but that's just me. It's definitely different, and I appreciate that. The Fire Moon Festival set has a very sad theme to it, and is honestly one of the most depressing tracks, relaying a sadness but also this unnerving energy to it. Something feels a bit off with this track and puts you on edge. It works effectively, I think, and creates a solid atmosphere. Xenomorph has a nice futuristic sci-fi sound to it. I like the strange noises and the distorted moan sound, kind of. It's unsettling and uncertain, but it fits Xeno well as an otherworldly creature. I think this one is meant to feel sort of off-putting to listen to. In this case, I think it mostly works. Spirit has sort of a hollowness to it which works, I think, but also this underlying anger and rhythm and thumping, relaying that inner rage within her. It's a nice track, although I would prefer if it had a bit more of the sadder sounding themes, with it leaning more on the angry side, especially as the track goes on. Nurse has a very creepy track that is much quieter than many of the others. It feels very anticipatory, as if on the verge of something coming or occurring. The creepy expectant sounds and the distant sort of breathing is very disturbing and creepy, and works well for Nurse, with many of the longer notes sounding like distant wails. And not wails like in the sea, I mean wails like screams, like Nurse you probably understood what I meant. Oni has a very dramatic theme, rising with a sort of marching feeling to it with the drums in the background, and momentum the track has building up to the climax. It works well for Oni and does really feel like a marching into battle theme, with it exploding at the end with a rattle of drums. Really nice, and although relatively simple and straightforward, it fits him well. Huntress has a very wispy, windy sound that creates this sort of expectant atmosphere. I do like it in that way. It's the kind of thing that would work well playing in the background as you pace through the Red Forest, wondering where she may be lurking. I do wish there was a little more to it, but I do appreciate the whistly sound almost, and how it sort of interlinks with her and her lullaby. Billy's theme is one I've always liked despite its simplicity. It keeps to the main DBD theme, but adds sort of a rolling chainsaw noise over the top. It feels very fitting and daunting almost, as it repeats and slowly grows in ferocity. Simple, but they nailed it. Deathsinger has a very sinister twist on the bass theme, with a slower dun 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 dun. It's very daunting and kind of puts you in the spot of being hunted down by the Deathslinger, a track that strikes some fear and sets the scene. Baba Yaga, or the Modern Tales set, has a theme that is carried a lot by the voice. I like this with it sort of being a folktale collection. It makes sense to have this. It also has the intrigue and small twinkle sounds that make it seem a bit magical, which works well. It's also got a surprising sort of epicness to it later on. Chucky has a fairly playful theme, which works well, I think. I like how it jumps up and down and has these small twinkly sounds, but then the creepy downturn and voices come in. Really effective combination, I think, and represents Chucky very well, having the playful side, but also this really sinister side too. Hooked on You is a collection which has its own theme too, belonging to the skins of Spirit and Huntress. This theme is interesting, being very fast-paced, and is a bit of a jam. I'm not sure how well it works to represent Hooked on You though, and its theme. I do like some elements, such as the shaking sounds. Artist has an interesting theme, having this eeriness to it as if someone is approaching you, a tiptoey sort of sound as the music slips in and out of proximity. I think it's meant to sort of represent the flight of a bird, the flapping, the movement, with it all tied together with the choring at the end. I enjoy it, and it's nice that it goes in a different route to many others. Legion's theme is just an amped up version of the bass theme, with more guitar sounds and a heavier thumping to its notes. It works well for Legion and their teenage anger. It's a nice difference in theme from many others having such a heaviness and percussion-y sound to it. Also just sort of a jam. Cenobite has a very elegant and sophisticated theme. It fits them relatively well, I think. I like how it breaks later on too and has the chorus of voices going, oh. Ghostface has a very sharp theme that rises quickly as many noises come together. It instantly creates a lot of tension and sort of makes you feel like you're being watched or need to check your back. It's quite a lot going on, but it works well, I think, in creating that sense of being watched, which is perfect. Clown is another character with a theme very fitting for him, with the circus sounds, with it sort of having an up and down, boop, bubble, boop. It sounds a bit more excitable and playful, but it has that underlying creepiness to it, which works well, I think. Solid theme. Twins have an interesting theme, having sort of a mystery to it with the twinkling sounds here and there, but the steady uneasiness of the track as a whole. It's nice for representing them and the fact they're a lot less killery than most of the others in the realm. A solid track with nice elements. Visions of the Future is a theme that is quite synthy, but also stays much truer to the generic theme, only trailing off a bit toward the end and going off into more of a varied beat. I do like it, but I do think it lacks that feeling of being futuristic. It does have a lot of synth, but I sort of wish it had more variety and elements. But still a good track. Naughty Bear has a similar synthy sound to the Stranger Things characters. It works well, I think, and is a bit more sinister with its underlying notes. It's relatively basic, but I do think it works well with Naughty Bear, and definitely has some good tension and an overall pleasing, yet slightly disturbing sound. Executioner has a solid theme, and definitely has an edge of mystery and curiosity to it. It's a track that has that edge of creepiness, but is mostly driven by this uncomfortable or unsure feeling it creates with the notes, and the way they sort of fall. Very good track and fits the Silent Hill vibe well. Nemesis has some really dramatic music that's very stampy and loud, which works well. It's also like this slowly increasing theme that gets heavier and louder as it goes, almost like he's approaching. I like how it works, although it's fairly simple. Very fitting for our lethal pursuer, feeling very quick and aggressive in the later section especially. The Jabberwock, or the Alice in Wonderland collection, has a very floaty and high-pitched track. It works well for the mystery and bizarreness of the world of Alice in Wonderland. I do like the pace of it and how it continues the violin ? Throughout. A nice and very fantastical track fitting for the Jabberwock. Wesker has a fairly high energy track that has lots of momentum and sort of anticipation to it. It sounds very on edge, and almost like the music you'd hear in something like a spy film. I like it. There's sort of a danger to it, paired with the pace and the energy of it. It creates a very engaging track that I think fits Wesker and his world-dominating desires well. Blight has a very large-scale track that feels almost operatic or orchestral. There's just such an atmosphere and presence created with this track. It has such a nice balance of sophistication and almost a delicateness to it, but also a sharper and harsher side. These two elements are good for representing Blight's two sides, the man and the monster. Trickster has always disappointed me just a little bit. He's the music killer, but his track is sort of fairly average and similar to the bass theme for its opening. It's only when the later beats come in that it sort of picks up and fits him well. But when it does, it's just perfect. Still, the opening is a bit too basic for him, but I think it's kind of made up for by the end. Demogorgon has a great track with it basically being a mash of Stranger Things and the bass theme. It's very synthy, it's creepy, mysterious, and sort of intriguing, I guess you'd say. It also has the otherworldliness to it, which works really nicely also for demo. Another track that I would just happily listen to, even out of the game. Doctor has a crackly, altered version of the main theme, with lots of disturbed noises and sounds that are actually quite unpleasant and stressful to listen to. The later sort of siren sound that comes in is also very effective. This track is really amazing at relaying Doctor as a character, with its jitteriness and electrical themes. An uncomfortable listen, but just so perfect for Doctor. Attack on Titan finally is going to come in our first spot. And this sort of surprised me. I've never really listened to this because I barely play the Attack on Titan characters, but this has a great theme for its characters being very energetic and driven. The music is really great and sets the scene well for the universe. It's just got a good energy and is honestly just a bit of a banger. Well, there you go. Let me know your thoughts as always down below. Thanks, and goodbye.